3:14 a.m. You're standing in a warehouse you don't own yet, holding a lease you signed with your last $4,000. The forklift hums. Nobody else is here. You built this because nobody was going to hand it to you. Somewhere down a line you can't see yet, a person who shares your blood will inherit what you're building tonight and never once smell this warehouse. That's the whole story. We'll come back to that person. First, you have to become the reason they exist. Generation 1, Level 1, $0. You are 26. You work a job that pays $19 an hour and you spend your nights building something on a laptop that overheats after 40 minutes. Nobody invests in you. Nobody co-signs anything. Your parents worked their whole lives and have $6,000 saved for retirement combined. You are the floor. There is no cushion beneath you. Every decision you make is unprotected. You quit the job at 27. Your mother doesn't speak to you for 3 weeks. Not out of anger. Out of fear. She knows what falling looks like because she's lived near the bottom of it her whole life, and you just jumped without a net she can see. You don't have a net either. You just can't feel it yet. The first rule, at Generation 1, Level 1, risk isn't a strategy. It's the only option left. Generation 1, Level 2, $40,000. The business turns a profit in year 2. Not a big one. Enough that you stop checking your account with dread. You still drive the same car. You still eat the same lunch. The difference is invisible from the outside and total on the inside. You hire your first employee. You run payroll wrong the first month and fix it personally, out of your own pocket, so she doesn't feel it. You don't take a real salary for 14 months. Your friends assume you're doing well because you own a business. Owning and having are not the same word yet. The second rule, at this level, the business is rich and you are not, and only you know the difference. Generation 1, Level 3. $600,000. You sell a piece of the company. Not all of it. Enough. The wire hits on a Tuesday and you sit in your car in the parking lot before you go inside, because you need one more minute as the person who didn't have this. You buy a modest house. Not the house you could technically afford. The house that doesn't scare you. Your parents visit and your mother touches the countertop like it might not be real. You realize she's not proud yet. She's still waiting to see if it lasts. The third rule, the first generation never fully believes the money is theirs, because they remember, cellularly, what it felt like to have none. Generation 1, Level 4, $4 million. The company gets acquired. You're 38. The number lands and it doesn't feel like triumph, it feels like vertigo. You've spent 12 years building a tolerance for risk that most people never develop, and now the risk is gone and you don't know what to do with the muscle. You buy your parents a house outright. Your father cries in a way you've seen him do exactly once before, at his own father's funeral. You understand in that moment that this money was never really about you. It was about closing a door behind 3 generations of people who lived with it open. The fourth rule, the first generation builds wealth to end a story. They rarely get to enjoy that the story is over. Generation 1, Level 5, $12 million. You are 44. You've stopped working the business day to day. You sit on the porch some mornings and feel something you don't have a name for, a kind of grief for the hunger that used to run you. You start a small fund to invest in founders who remind you of yourself at 26. Not out of charity, out of recognition. Your son is 9. He has never once worried about money, not for a single day of his life, and you don't know yet if that's the gift you think it is or something else entirely. The fifth rule, Generation 1 spends their whole life running from scarcity. Generation 2 will never know what they're running from at all. Generation 2, Level 1. Born into $12 million. Your son is 24 now. He didn't build anything. It's a fact, and facts don't carry guilt until someone assigns it to them. He grew up in the house you bought after the acquisition. He went to schools you paid for in full, no loans, no worry. He has never once felt the specific fear of a declined card. He also has never once felt the specific pride of a wire hitting an account he built from nothing. Those two absences are the same absence. He takes a job at a firm his father knows the founder of. Not nepotism exactly. Access. There's a difference and there isn't. The sixth rule, Generation 2 inherits the money but not the muscle that built it, and muscle doesn't transfer through a will. Generation 2, Level 2. $12 million becomes $9 million. He makes decisions his father would never have made, because his father's decisions were forged under threat and his are forged under comfort. He invests $800,000 in a friend's startup on a handshake. No documentation. It fails within a year. He barely notices the number move, because the number was never his in the way it was his father's. He doesn't panic. He doesn't run the math 3 times at midnight the way his father once did over $4,000. The absence of panic feels, to him, like maturity. It is actually the absence of memory. The 7th rule: Generation 2 loses money the way Generation 1 made it, without ceremony, in increments that never individually feel dangerous. Generation 2, Level 3. $9 million, a different kind of pressure. He marries. His wife grew up with less. She flinches at the size of the house the way his mother once flinched at the countertop, except she's flinching from the other direction, odd rather than disbelieving. Their friend group splits along a fault line he didn't choose. Half of them ask him for money eventually. He says yes more often than he should, because saying no requires a hardness his father earned through 14 months of no salary, and he was never given the raw material to build that hardness from. The 8th rule: Generation 2 inherits the wealth and inherits the isolation, but skips the decade of building that would have made the isolation feel earned. The 8th rule: Generation 2 inherits the wealth and inherits the isolation, but skips the decade of building that would have made the isolation feel earned. Generation 2, Level 4. The Reckoning. He's 40. He runs the numbers his father used to run, except his are running backward. $12 million has become $7 million across 16 years, not from catastrophe, from 1,000 small unexamined choices: private school tuition for kids who don't yet know what tuition costs, a boat he uses 4 times a year, a business he funded for a college friend that never turned a profit. He calls his father. His father doesn't lecture him. His father just asks one question. He doesn't. That's the answer neither of them says out loud. The 9th rule: Generation 2's crisis isn't poverty, it's the sudden, disorienting discovery that a fortune can be spent by people who never watched it get built. Generation 2, Level 5. Correction. Something shifts at 42. He hires a fee-only advisor his father recommends, a woman named Reyes who does not flatter him. She shows him a spreadsheet that maps every dollar for the next 30 years under 3 different behaviors. He picks the middle path, not the aggressive one, not the reckless one. He starts saying no to the friend fund requests. It costs him 2 friendships. He doesn't regret it the way he thought he would. His son, 11 now, watches him say no to a relative asking for a loan, and something about that scene, the boy watching the word no land without an apology behind it, becomes the most important inheritance he'll ever pass down, more important than any of the $7 million left. The 10th rule: Generation 2's real job isn't preserving the money, it's teaching the boundary that Generation 1 never had to teach because scarcity taught it for free. Generation 3, Level 1. Born into a name, not just a number. The granddaughter is 8. She doesn't know the warehouse ever existed. She's never heard the word overdraft. She attends a school where 1/3 of her classmates share her family's particular species of comfort, and none of them discuss it, the way nobody discusses air. Her grandfather is a story told at Thanksgiving, slightly mythologized, slightly softened at the edges the way all founding stories get softened by the second retelling. She has a trust she won't access until 25, structured by lawyers her grandfather never would have known how to hire and now insists on. The 11th rule: Generation 3 doesn't inherit money or the absence of it. They inherit a mythology, and mythologies are heavier than cash and far easier to misunderstand. Generation 3, Level 2. The test nobody warned her about. She's 19, in college, and for the first time she meets people who assume, correctly, that she's never wanted for anything, and the assumption lands on her like an accusation she didn't choose and can't fully defend against. She starts downplaying the family name at parties. Not from shame exactly, from the exhausting predictability of watching people's faces change once they know. Her father tells her this feeling has a name inside the family, though nobody ever wrote it down. The 3rd generation either becomes invisible on purpose, or becomes the reason the whole thing collapses. She doesn't know yet which one she'll be. The 12th rule: the 3rd generation is the only one that has to choose an identity instead of being handed one by circumstance, and the choosing is its own kind of labor nobody accounts for. Generation 3, Level 3. The statistic. She learns, in a business class she almost didn't take, a number that will follow her for the rest of her life. Roughly 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the end of the 2nd generation, and nearly 90% lose it by the end of the 3rd. She sits with this the way her grandfather once sat with cold coffee at 11:47 p.m., except her crisis has no ceiling, no market, no invoice to point to. Her crisis is statistical, abstract, and somehow more frightening for being so quiet. She realizes the family isn't fighting to make money anymore. They're fighting a number that was written about families exactly like hers before she was born. The 13th rule: Generation 1 fights scarcity, Generation 2 fights carelessness, and Generation 3 fights a statistic that doesn't care how hard anyone tries. Generation 3, Level 4. The decision that mirrors the beginning. She's 27 now. She sits in a room with her father and a woman named Reyes, older now, still unflattering, still precise. They're deciding whether to fund a small company built by a 26-year-old with $4,000 left and a laptop that overheats after 40 minutes. The founder reminds her, in a way she can't articulate, of a warehouse she's never seen and a man she only knows through slightly softened Thanksgiving stories. She votes yes. Not from sentiment. From recognition. The 14th rule: the dynasty survives, when it survives at all, not because the third generation protects the money, but because someone in the third generation remembers, secondhand, what it once cost to make it. Somewhere right now, in a warehouse that doesn't exist yet, a 26-year-old is sitting alone at 3:14 a.m. with a laptop that overheats and $4,000 left in an account. They don't know yet whether they're generation 1 of something that lasts, or a single generation that spends itself back to zero. They don't know a version of their granddaughter is going to sit in a room decades from now and decide, based partly on people like them, whether to keep a dynasty alive. The clock doesn't start when the money arrives. It starts the moment someone decides scarcity ends with them. Whether it actually does is a different question, and it gets answered 3 generations later, by someone who was never in the room.